Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the defense station, watching the enemy ships fill the darkness of space. The alien fleet stretched as far as his eyes could see. Hundreds of massive warships moved toward Earth like hungry wolves. Their black holes gleamed under the distant sun. "Sir, we have incoming fire," called out Lieutenant Ben Hayes from his station. The young officer's hands shook as he worked the controls. Everyone knew this was the end. Jake nodded and gripped the rail in front of him. "All stations, return. Fire. Give them everything we have." The defense station shook as enemy weapons hit their shields. Red lights flashed on every panel. Through the windows, Jake could see other human stations exploding in bright flashes. One by one, humanity's last defenses were dying. "Admiral Grant is on the comm," said Sergeant Mary Lopez. Jake walked to the communication panel. "Admiral Lisa." Grant appeared on the screen. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed the weight of defeat. Behind her, Jake could see the bridge of her flagship burning. "Jake, it's time," she said simply. Earth Command just sent the final message before they went dark. Jake felt his heart skip. He had heard stories about Protocol Lazarus, but he never thought it was real. "Are you sure, Admiral?" The code came directly from Dr. Walsh before the research station was destroyed. She uploaded everything before the end. Lisa's voice was steady. "Protocol Lazarus is now active." Across the fleet, Captain Ryan Brooks received the same message on his ship. He had been fighting the aliens for 10 years. He had seen planets burn and colonies fall. But this was different. This was hope. Ryan turned to his crew. "All hands, prepare for final attack run. We're going to buy them time." "Time for what, sir?" asked his gunner. Ryan smiled for the first time in months. "Time for humanity to remember who we really are." On the research station near Jupiter, Dr. Amy Walsh worked frantically at her computer. The alien ships were only minutes away. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she uploaded the last activation codes. These codes had been locked away for over 100 years, waiting for this moment. Come on," she whispered as the upload bar moved slowly across her screen. Outside, she could see the enemy ships getting closer. Their weapons were charging for the killing blow. The upload hit 100%, just as the first alien beam cut through her station. Amy smiled. As the walls exploded around her, she had done it. The secret was finally free, deep beneath Earth's surface. In places that had been forgotten by most humans, ancient machines began to wake up. Lights that had been dark for decades started to glow. Computer systems that had been sleeping began to run their programs. Massive doors that had been sealed began to open. The aliens did not know about these places. They thought they knew everything about human technology. They had been fighting humans for 200 years. They had learned to beat every human weapon and ship. But these installations were older than the war. They came from a time when humans were strong and proud, in the hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Systems came online for the first time since 2241. Rows and rows of sleeping pods began their warming cycles. Inside each pod lay a human volunteer, who had given up their life in the past to fight for humanity's future. The alien commander. Vex 9 watched the last human ships explode on his main screen. His forearms moved over his controls as he directed the final attack. The humans had been a tough enemy, but they were finished now. "All human military forces have been destroyed," reported his second-in-command. "Earth is defenseless." VEX-9 clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "Begin the landing operations. The planet is ours." But far below Earth's surface, something the aliens had never imagined was stirring to life. The humans had planned for this day long before the war began. They had prepared for their own defeat, and now, in their darkest hour, their greatest weapon was finally awakening. Jake Morrison watched his station's shields fail as enemy fire poured in. He thought about his wife and children who had died when the aliens took Mars. He thought about all the friends he had lost in this long war. But for the first time in years, he felt hope. "All hands, abandon station," he ordered. "Get to the escape pods." As Jake's pod flew away from the dying station, he looked back at Earth. The planet looked peaceful from here, blue and white and beautiful. But he knew that beneath its surface, humanity's real strength was waking up. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humanity was broken and defeated. They had no idea that their victory was just the beginning of humanity's real war. The sleeper army was coming, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker felt cold metal against his back as consciousness slowly returned. His eyes opened to see a glass lid above him, covered with frost that melted away as warm air filled the pod. Red lights blinked around him as systems came online. The lid hissed open and Steve sat up slowly. His body felt stiff and strange. The last thing he remembered was lying down in this same pod in the year 2241. Dr. Sullivan had explained that he might sleep for decades before. The protocol activated. "Welcome back, Colonel Parker." Steve turned to see a woman in a white coat standing nearby. She had gray hair and kind eyes, but her face looked older than he remembered. "Dr. Kate Sullivan?" Steve asked. His voice was rough from the long sleep. "That's right, though I've been awake for a few hours longer than you." Kate smiled sadly. "I'm afraid I have some difficult news to share." Steve climbed out of the pod and looked around. The massive underground chamber stretched out in all directions. Thousands of other pods were opening, releasing people who had been sleeping for over a century. Men and women in military uniforms stumbled out, looking confused and scared. "What year is it?" Steve asked. 2387. "You've been asleep for 146 years. Kate handed him a tablet computer. "The war is over, Steve. We lost." Steve stared at the tablet screen. It showed images of Earth from space, covered with alien ships and stations. Cities lay in ruins. The oceans were darker than they should be. His hands shook as he scrolled through the reports. "How many humans are left?" he asked quietly. "We estimate maybe 50 million scattered across the outer colonies. Earth itself has perhaps 10 million survivors living in hiding." Kate's voice was steady, but Steve could hear the pain in it. "The aliens think they've destroyed us completely. Around them, other awakened soldiers were getting similar briefings from medical staff." Steve saw Major Beth Collins talking to a technician near the weapons storage area. Captain Alex Turner was studying tactical displays with a group of naval officers. All of them looked shocked by what they were learning. "But we're not destroyed, are we?" Steve said. "That's why we're here." Kate nodded. "The Sleeper Army project was designed for exactly this situation. We preserved our best military minds and our most advanced technology from before the war began. The aliens have spent 2 centuries learning to fight the humans they knew. They've never faced the humans we used to be." Steve walked to a large window that looked out into another chamber. Inside, he could see massive machines building ships and weapons. The designs looked familiar, but different from anything he had seen during the war. "Those are pre-war designs," Kate explained. "Weapons and ships from humanity's golden age, before we had to adapt our technology to fight the aliens. They've never seen anything like what we're about to show them." In the next chamber over, Colonel Mike Davis was reviewing intelligence reports from the automated spy networks. These systems had been watching and recording everything for decades, waiting for this moment. The data they had collected was incredible. "The aliens have made themselves comfortable," Mike told his briefing officer. "They're strip mining Earth with minimal security. They think there's no threat left." "How minimal?" asked Captain Nina Foster, who had just awakened from her own pod. "Some mining operations have just a few guards. Their main fleet is spread across 3 sectors, dealing with other conquered species. They never expected to face resistance from a supposedly extinct race. In the command center, General Sam Rodriguez studied the strategic situation with Dr. Sullivan. The underground facility was just one of 12 similar installations around the world. Each one contained thousands of sleeping soldiers and massive manufacturing capabilities. "How long until we're ready to move?" Sam asked. "The awakening process will take another 6 hours," Kate replied. "Full production capability should be online within 48 hours. We can begin limited operations in 1 week." Sam nodded. "And our people on the outside?" "Admiral Grant and the other survivors are scattered, but alive. They're waiting for our signal." Captain Alex Turner approached the command group. "Ma'am, I've been reviewing the tactical data. The aliens have some new weapons, but they're basic. Strategy hasn't changed much. They're still using the same formation patterns they developed to fight us. Which means they're vulnerable to pre-war tactics," Sam realized. "Exactly. They've never faced stealth technology from 2240. They've never seen our original missile systems or energy weapons. As far as they know, those designs were lost when Earth fell." Kate pulled up a holographic display showing Earth and the surrounding space. Alien ships moved in predictable patterns around the planet. Mining operations continued without interruption. The enemy felt completely safe. "They think they're occupying a dead world," she said. "They have no idea that beneath their feet, humanity's real army is waking up." Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker looked around at his fellow soldiers. These were the best humanity had to offer from their strongest period. They had volunteered to give up their lives in the present to fight for humanity's future. Now that future had arrived. "How do we begin?" he asked. Kate smiled for the first time since his awakening. "We start by reminding the galaxy who humans really are when we're not fighting for our survival. We show them what we can do when we're fighting from strength instead of desperation." The awakening was complete. The sleeper army was ready, and somewhere far above them, the aliens who thought they had one were about to discover that humanity's real war was just beginning. Captain Alex Turner moved his ship through the asteroid field like a shadow. The stealth technology from 2240 made his vessel invisible to alien sensors. His crew of 12 worked in complete silence as they approached their target. "Alien supply. Station dead ahead," whispered Lieutenant Dan Cooper from the sensor station. 6 guards, ships, minimal shields. Alex nodded. The aliens had grown lazy in their victory. They never expected an attack this deep in their territory. Their supply stations were lightly defended, because they thought all humans were dead or hiding in the outer rim. "All weapons ready, Captain," reported Sergeant Kelly White from the weapons console. "Fire on my mark," Alex said quietly. "Remember, we hit fast and disappear. We want them to think they're seeing ghosts." The weapons fired in perfect silence. Old-style plasma cannons that the aliens had never encountered tore through their shields like paper. The supply station exploded in a brilliant flash before the guards could even react. "All enemy ships destroyed," Kelly reported. "No survivors." "Good. Set course for extraction point 7. Alex watched the burning wreckage fade behind them. "Log another successful raid for the Ghost Fleet." 3 sectors away, Major Beth Collins supervised the activation of another hidden facility. This one was built inside a large asteroid that looked empty from the outside. But inside, massive factories were already producing ships and weapons at an incredible rate. "Production line 3 is online," reported technician Carl Price. "We're now building 6 ships per day." Beth walked along the factory floor, watching robots assemble vessels that looked nothing like the ships humanity had used during the war. These were the original designs from humanity's golden age, before they had been forced to adapt to alien technology. "How many facilities like this do we have?" asked Lieutenant Sarah Bell, who was overseeing weapons production. 43 automated factories hidden throughout the asteroid belt," Beth replied. The aliens mapped this region decades ago, but they only looked for inhabited asteroids. They never thought to check the empty ones. In another part of the facility, Dr. Amy Green was reviewing intelligence reports from spy networks that had been dormant for over a century. These automated systems had been watching the aliens since the early days of the war, learning their patterns and weaknesses. Their communication network is completely open, Amy told Colonel Mike Davis. They stopped using encryption protocols 5 years ago because they thought there was no one left to spy on them. Mike studied the data streams flowing across his screen. Everything the aliens did was being recorded and analyzed. Their troop movements, supply schedules, even personal communications between commanders. What about their mining operations on Earth? He asked. Completely undefended, Amy replied. They have about 50 installations across the planet, each with maybe 10 guards. They're treating Earth like a peaceful mining colony. Mike smiled grimly. Then it's time to remind them that this is our world. On Earth's surface, hidden sensors began activating for the first time in decades. These devices had been buried deep underground before the war began. They had waited patiently for the activation signal, and now they were waking up to map every alien position on the planet. Commander Tony Blake sat in a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of New York, watching data flow in from sensors across the continent. The aliens had built their facilities right on top of old human cities, never knowing that those cities were connected by networks they couldn't detect. Sir, we have complete coverage of the eastern seaboard, reported operator Lisa Stone. 43 alien installations, 600 personnel total. Any major weapons? Tony asked. Just mining equipment and basic defense systems. They really don't expect any trouble. In space, the Ghost Fleet continued its campaign of terror. Captain Nina Foster led a squadron of invisible ships against an alien communication relay. Her pilots used tactics that hadn't been seen in over a century, attacking from angles the aliens couldn't predict. Enemy formation is breaking apart, called out her wingman, Lieutenant Paul Gray. They're trying to retreat. Don't let them, Nina ordered. No witnesses, no survivors. We want them to think their equipment is just failing. The alien ships exploded one by one, their crews never understanding what was happening. To them, it looked like their own systems were malfunctioning and exploding randomly. Back on the command ship hidden beneath Earth, General Sam Rodriguez reviewed the results of their first week of operations. The numbers were better than anyone had hoped. 73 successful raids with 0 losses, reported Major Helen Price. We've destroyed over 200 alien ships and 30 supply installations. And what are they saying about it? Sam asked. Dr. Kate Sullivan pulled up intercepted alien communications. They're confused and scared. Their commanders are reporting equipment failures and mysterious explosions. Some of them think their own technology is breaking down. Perfect. Fear is our best weapon right now. Captain Alex Turner returned from another successful mission, his ship loaded with captured alien technology. His team had learned to strike mining operations so quickly that the aliens never knew they were under attack until it was over. The pattern is always the same, Alex reported to the command staff. They have great technology, but terrible discipline. They've gotten used to being the only threat in the galaxy. That's going to change very soon, said Colonel Mike Davis. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, as the alien occupation forces tried to understand what was happening to them. Humanity's real strength was growing every day. Hidden factories produced new ships using old designs. Awakened soldiers learned to use weapons the aliens had never faced. Intelligence networks mapped every enemy position with perfect accuracy. The aliens still thought they were fighting the desperate survivors of a broken race. They had no idea they were facing humanity at its strongest. Using technology and tactics from their golden age, the Ghost Army was real, and it was getting stronger every day. General Sam Rodriguez stood before the largest holographic display ever built, showing the entire solar system. Red dots marked alien positions, while blue dots showed human forces. For the first time in decades, there were more blue dots than red ones. "All fleets report ready for operation," announced Major Beth Collins from her command station. "The Ghost Fleet has grown to over 300 ships. Our production facilities have been working around the clock." Sam nodded as he studied the tactical display. 2 months of raids had weakened the alien forces significantly. Now it was time for the real attack. "Captain Turner, status of the stealth squadrons." Alex Turner's image appeared on the communication screen. He was aboard his flagship in the asteroid belt, leading a formation of invisible ships. "All stealth units are in position, General. We've mapped every alien sensor array in the system. When you give the word, we can blind them completely." "Commander Foster, what about the orbital defenses around Earth?" Nina Foster's voice came from her command ship, hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon. "My pilots have been studying those platforms for weeks. The aliens built them using our old defensive plans, but they modified them poorly. We know every weakness." Sam turned to Dr. Kate Sullivan, who was monitoring alien communications from the main intelligence station. "Doctor, are they still unaware of our true strength?" Kate smiled as she reviewed the intercepted messages. "Their commanders are reporting equipment failures and random attacks by small groups of survivors. They estimate our total force at maybe 50 ships. They have no idea we have a full fleet." "Perfect. Dr. Green, activate the Planetary Defense Network." On Earth's surface, Dr. Amy Green worked at a control station hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her fingers moved across controls that hadn't been used since before the war began. "Initiating startup sequence for all planetary defense installations," she announced. "Underground missile silos are coming online across 6 continents." Far above, alien mining teams continued their work, unaware that beneath their feet, massive weapons were powering up for the first time in over a century. These installations had been built during humanity's golden age, then hidden and forgotten when the war began. Commander Tony Blake watched his screens as defense platforms began rising from hidden locations across North America. The aliens had built their mining operations right on top of these sites, never knowing they were there. "Sir, all eastern seaboard installations are active," reported Operator Lisa Stone. "We have weapons lock on 43 alien positions. Hold fire until the General gives the signal," Tony ordered. "This has to be perfectly coordinated." In space, the alien fleet commander Vex-9 reviewed routine reports from his mining operations. Everything seemed normal. The mysterious equipment failures had stopped weeks ago, and his engineers had dismissed them as normal wear and tear. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting some unusual readings near the asteroid belt," reported his sensor operator. Vex-9 barely looked up from his reports. "Probably just debris from our mining operations. The humans are extinct. There's nothing out there that can threaten us." He could not have been more wrong. General Sam Rodriguez raised his hand, watching as final preparations completed across the solar system. Hundreds of ships were in position. Thousands of ground-based weapons were ready. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since before the war began. "All units," he said into his communicator, "this is Operation Phoenix. Begin the counterstrike now." The effect was immediate and devastating. Captain Alex Turner's stealth ships struck every alien sensor array simultaneously. In minutes, the entire alien fleet was blind and deaf, unable to communicate or see incoming threats. Commander Nina Foster led her squadrons against the orbital platforms around Earth. The aliens had built these defenses using old human plans, but they had never faced the weapons those plans were designed to stop. "All fighters, remember your targets," Nina called to her pilots. "These platforms were built to stop the ships we used during the war. They've never seen the ships we used before the war. Lieutenant Paul Gray smiled as he lined up his attack run. His fighter carried weapons that were 200 years old, but completely unknown to the alien defenses. The platform's shields, designed to stop modern human weapons, collapsed immediately under his assault. On Earth's surface, the hidden defense network revealed itself in a spectacular display of firepower. Massive missile launchers rose from the ground like metal mountains. Beam weapons emerged from mountainsides and lake beds. The planet itself had become a fortress. All ground installations, fire at will, ordered Commander Tony Blake. The sky filled with light as hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously. Alien mining operations disappeared in brilliant explosions. Their lightly defended positions had no chance against weapons designed to stop invasion fleets. Dr. Amy Green watched her tactical display as Earth's defenses systematically destroyed every alien installation on the planet. All surface targets eliminated, she reported. The planet is secure. In space, the main alien fleet finally realized they were under attack. But by then, it was too late. General Sam Rodriguez had positioned his forces perfectly, using the aliens' own overconfidence against them. Enemy fleet is trying to retreat toward the outer system, reported Major Beth Collins. Don't let them, Sam ordered. Captain Turner, cut off their escape routes. Alex Turner's ghost fleet appeared from the asteroid belt like shadows coming to life. Ships that the aliens couldn't see on their sensors suddenly became visible as they opened fire. The enemy fleet found themselves surrounded by weapons they didn't recognize. Sir, our shields are failing, the alien sensor operator reported to Vex-9. These human weapons are cutting right through our defenses. Vex-9 stared at his tactical display in shock. Hundreds of human ships surrounded his fleet. These weren't the desperate survivors he had been fighting. These were professional warships with advanced technology and perfect coordination. How is this possible? He asked. We destroyed their entire military. Sir, incoming message from the human fleet, reported his communications officer. General Sam Rodriguez's image appeared on Vex-9's main screen. The human looked calm and confident, nothing like the desperate survivors the aliens remembered. Commander, Vex-9, Sam said politely. I believe you have something that belongs to us. We'd like our planet back. The counterstrike was complete. Earth was free, and the alien fleet was trapped, with no hope of escape. The sleeper army had awakened, and they were everything humanity had hoped they would be. Admiral Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of the flagship Phoenix, watching the final battle unfold around Earth. The massive ship was a perfect recreation of humanity's greatest warship from 2240, built in secret over the past 3 months. Its weapons and shields were generations ahead of anything the aliens had ever faced. Sir, enemy fleet is in full retreat, reported Captain Lisa Wells from the tactical station. They're trying to reach the jump point near Saturn. Tony smiled as he watched the alien ships flee in panic. All squadrons, maintain pursuit. Don't let a single ship escape our solar system. The space around Earth was filled with the largest human fleet ever assembled. Ships that had been myths and legends during the war were now real and deadly. The aliens who had once hunted humanity across the galaxy were now running for their lives. Commander Jake Morrison, who had survived the destruction of the last defense station, watched the battle from the bridge of a rescue ship. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. The same aliens who had seemed invincible just months ago were being swept away like leaves in a storm. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from multiple alien vessels, reported Communications Officer Kevin Stone. Ignore them, Tony ordered, firmly. They showed no mercy to our civilians. They get none from us. On the surface of Earth, Lieutenant General Julie Adams coordinated the largest landing operation in human history. Massive transport ships descended through the atmosphere, carrying millions of awakened soldiers and civilians from the hidden facilities. All landing zones are secure, reported Colonel Steve Parker from his position near the ruins of London. The planetary defense network cleared out every alien installation. We're not meeting any resistance. Julie looked out over the scarred landscape that had once been England. The aliens had strip-mined huge sections of the countryside, leaving ugly scars across what had been green fields. But already, automated repair systems were beginning the healing process. How long until the environmental restoration is complete? She asked Dr. Amy Green, who was overseeing the ecological recovery from a mobile command center. The atmospheric processors are already running, Amy replied, checking her readings. Air quality should be back to normal within 6 months. The oceans will take longer, maybe 2 years, to fully clean. In space, Captain Nina Foster led the final assault on the alien command ship. Her squadron of fighters moved like dancers around the massive vessel, their pre-war weapons tearing through shields that had once seemed impenetrable. Target their engines, she ordered her pilots. I want them alive, to see what comes next. Lieutenant Paul Gray smiled as he lined up his shot. Copy that, Commander. One crippled alien flagship coming up. The command ship's engines exploded in a chain reaction that left the vessel drifting helplessly. Inside, Commander Vex-9 watched his tactical displays go dark one by one as human ships surrounded him. Sir, all our escorts have been destroyed, reported his aide. We're alone. VEX-9 looked at the human fleet surrounding his ship. There were hundreds of vessels, all using technology he had never seen before. These weren't the humans he remembered fighting. These were something else, entirely. Open a channel to the human flagship, he ordered. Admiral Tony Mitchell's image appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Vex-9 could see a bridge filled with calm, professional officers. These humans showed no signs of the desperation that had marked their species during the war. Commander Vex-Novi, Tony said politely. You're probably wondering how we managed to build a fleet this size without you noticing. The thought had occurred to me, Vex-9 replied bitterly. The answer is simple. We didn't build it. We preserved it. Tony gestured to the ships around them. Every vessel in this fleet was designed and built before your people ever attacked us. You've been fighting our children and grandchildren. Today, you face their ancestors. On Earth, Dr. Susan Blake worked in a medical facility that had been hidden beneath the Sahara Desert. Around her, thousands of sleeping humans were being awakened from pods that had preserved them for over a century. How many survivors do we have in total? Asked Captain Alex Turner, who had just returned from his final mission against alien supply lines. Nearly 10 million awakened from the sleeper facilities, Susan replied. Another 50 million scattered. Survivors from the colonies, and about 12 million who survived on Earth itself by hiding underground. Alex nodded as he watched families reunite after being separated by decades of sleep. Children who had been put into stasis as babies were now being awakened to find their grandparents waiting for them. The integration programs are working well, Susan continued. The awakened populations are adapting quickly to the current time. Period. And the war survivors are amazed by our pre-war technology. In the orbital command center above Earth, General Sam Rodriguez reviewed the final casualty reports with Dr. Kate Sullivan. The numbers were better than anyone had dared hope. Total alien fleet destroyed, 97%. Kate read from her tablet. Human casualties, less than 1%. Mission objectives, completely successful. Sam looked out at Earth through the station's main window. The planet was still scarred from decades of alien occupation, but already it was healing. Green shoots were beginning to grow in the strip-mined areas. The oceans were clearing as the restoration systems worked. What about the other alien species? He asked. The ones they conquered before us? Intelligence reports indicate they're already beginning uprisings, Kate replied. News of our victory is spreading fast. The hegemony's other subjects are realizing they can fight back. Commander Jake Morrison finally set foot on Earth's surface for the first time in 30 years. He stood on a hill overlooking what had once been his hometown, breathing air that smelled clean and fresh for the first time since the war began. "Sir, incoming message from Admiral Mitchell," called Sergeant Mary Lopez, who had also survived the last battle. Jake activated his communicator to hear Tony's voice. "Jake, I thought you'd want to know. We've just received surrender offers from 3 other alien species that were part of the hegemony. They want to join us against their former masters." Jake smiled as he looked up at the sky. Human ships moved through the atmosphere like metal angels, carrying supplies and people to begin the reconstruction. In the distance, he could see massive construction robots building new cities, using designs that were both ancient and advanced. "The galaxy is going to be a very different place from now on," he said. The war was over. The aliens were defeated. Earth was free and healing. But most importantly, humanity had learned the greatest lesson of all. Sometimes, the best way to survive extinction is to plan for it. As the Phoenix and her sister ships patrolled the outer system, new sleeper protocols were already being established on distant worlds. Humanity would never again face annihilation unprepared. The galaxy had learned that humans don't just survive against impossible odds. They plan for them.